I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from this fire. The Holy Ghost is with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Byer. Watch your Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about, we had started to talk about this yesterday, but Kamala Harris and a report from the ACLU. And I think we talked about it just basically as the story had dropped, but they actually did a video segment on it. And it's pretty funny how radical she was. I'm not surprised by anything in the report. CNN seems surprised for some reason. I think it's Aaron Burnett who did the report or had someone on a reporter on the show to talk about the report, and she seemed surprised. Now, you shouldn't be surprised by some of the crazy stuff that Kamala Harris supported in 2019, and that, you know, I'm sure she would still support if you were paying attention. So I'm a little confused why we know things and we're not surprised by things, but the news seems to be surprised by some things. So, and they did ask one of her people about it. They didn't want to answer any questions about it. So, but it's funny. It's funny, and I wonder how much of it is going to come up in this report. So we'll at least watch that segment and talk about it. And also, Elon Musk made a joke about somebody taking him out because someone asked him about his pitch to Donald Trump about being on a board to look at how efficient the government is. And he made a joke about it that I thought was interesting, because I sure did say something along those lines when he first proposed it on the space. So we'll talk about that and some other things. I got some mailers today that I wasn't too happy about. I knew they existed, but I got mine today, so I was TO'd. So I'm going to say my piece and talk a little bit about the debate tonight. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website. It does cost to stream and run the site and all that good stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate you guys. If you would like to give via Facebook, you guys can send stars. If you want to do it by YouTube, you guys can send super chats, but the easiest way is to really just go to the website and donate that way. I mentioned yesterday that on Thursday, I will be seeing Am I Racist in Michigan, which is where I live, but in case you didn't know that. So the Brighton, Michigan Pack is rented out a theater, so I will be there. So if you want to watch a movie with me, you are more than welcome to buy a ticket and come. And I think I mentioned yesterday that the tickets were $35. They discounted them all, so all the tickets are $20. And you're like, well, I could probably watch a movie for $5. I'm not going to pay $20. Well, listen, the $20 includes the pop. The $20 includes the popcorn. The $20 includes an after party where there will be food, but also one of the producers for the film who's also in the film. So it's going to be a very cool time. And it is a private viewing of, like, you know, folks, particularly from the pack, renting it out. So again, if you want to see the film with me and other folks I know, and it'll be a cool time. I got to meet the producer who will be there when I saw the early showing. It's well worth going to. It's well worth seeing, and it is worth paying for. I was totally gonna pay for it. I'm like, that Robin DiAngelo scene in the trailer meeting Matt Walsh, she's the author of White Fragility. And I said, that is going to be worth the price of admission. And it was, but there's other things also worth the price of admission. So I'm going to go ahead and go again. So I was glad to see it early. I was glad my curiosity was piqued. I was glad that it was satisfied, and I'm very interested to see how my family reacts to certain scenes because Matt Walsh is funny, and I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was, but it was. But the message was very important, and it's really good that they alert you to how much these grifters are getting paid for spreading racism and being motivated to keep racism and victim mentality alive in this country. So it's a good film. Support Daily Wire in their endeavor. Not just because of what they as an organization do and what they stand for, but because this is actually good product. I can't like go out there and shill for all their movies because I don't like them all. What is a Woman was great. This one was great. There's some they didn't make the Clarence Thomas documentary, but that's what worth like watching on their platform. That's where I saw it. And they have other content that is great. They got some misses though. So this is not a miss. It's my honest opinion. Not being paid for it, anything like that. But anyway, again, if you would like to go, you're more than welcome to go. And if you're wondering, Christina, you have not said how we get the information. You can go to my website, blacktnews.com, and I just updated it. So let me refresh the page myself. And there is right on the website. I guess I can pull it up and show you guys. There is something on my site. It looks kind of pink in here. I don't know what's going on. I guess it kind of looks a little pinkish in here in real life, but it looks like it's really pink on the live. Not sure what's going on with the color. So this is my website. It's right pretty much at the top. I'm looking at it in desktop view, but when you scroll down, the viewing and after party thing about Am I Racist, you can click on to learn more, and it will take you to a page where you guys can pay for the ticket and read a little bit more about it. But yeah, that's Thursday. Should be a good time. And so you guys can go right to the website and buy a ticket if you would like. I'm very sorry for those of you who do not live in Michigan and would like to go and attend. You guys are going to just have to find a theater somewhere close to you guys and go watch it. Unfortunately, without me, but you will have a nice time. You will have a nice time. But it should be a good time if you can make it. So, and I said this yesterday, but if you meet me in real life, I don't know how not introverted I seem online, but I am very introverted, and we will talk and we will have a good time. But if I seem a little shy or whatever, just know I'm actually genuinely an introvert. But we're gonna have a great time. Anyway, let's hop to it. I have more announcements, but I'll make them kind of at the end when I go back over everything. Let's jump to the actual content. So yesterday, while we were live, I started reading this report from CNN, the K File, and we laughed and had a good time talking about her ACLU questionnaire that she filled out. Now, when you become a candidate, one thing that happens, whether you run for a Senate or a Congress or, state rep, you get all of these surveys that are sent to you from all of these organizations. And sometimes there's different people in the party that will tell you like, hey, don't bother with this form. This group is really left wing, and they will take everything that you say to just utterly destroy you if they can. And their voters are not going to vote for you anyway. Don't fill that out. And there's sometimes if you don't fill out something, people will like, oh, why didn't they fill that out? And these questionnaires, a lot of people want to, go ahead and endorse you, but see if they want to endorse you. Sometimes they're going to figure out who's going to win, and they want to endorse a person who they think they're going to win. There's a lot of politics, even within the questionnaires, people trying to get to know you. Much of it is not even about the voters getting to know you. Politics is a very strange animal, but you do get all these questionnaires. So anyway, the ACLU put out a questionnaire, And Kamala Harris had some interesting answers to them. And again, I am not surprised by her answers. I don't know why other people are surprised by her answers. If you're surprised by her answers, it's because you haven't paid attention. This woman is from California. I'm not saying everyone from California is crazy, but we know that's like it's basically like a one party state, and some of the most radical ideas come out of California, and they might start spreading to other places, but they come out of California. Okay? California. And she lived in Canada for a long while too, but California, she was the most liberal radical senator there was, even more left of Bernie Sanders while she was in the Senate. She co-sponsored a lot of crazy things. I think it's funny when reporters start asking her folks like, so would she veto the bill that she co-sponsored? And then they don't want to answer those questions because they know they look stupid. So we'll see how Donald Trump navigates all this. And I wonder what kind of questions they'll ask as well. You know, ABC, they are very slanted toward Kamala Harris, so I don't know how fair they will be at the debate. I don't expect them to be particularly fair, but they have to ask her some good questions, and he has to really, hammer her as well. But she took so many super left positions, I don't know, to get attention, perhaps because those are her values and her values hasn't changed according to her interview that she had on CNN. So, you know, these are the things that she espoused. And again, they're a bit crazy. So we read through the article, most of it yesterday, but I'm going to go ahead and play this video segment for you guys. And all this is very interesting.
Tonight, Kamala Harris releasing details of her policy positions for the first time on her campaign website. A K-file investigation has uncovered, meantime, a 2019 questionnaire. And in this questionnaire, Harris laid out some much more liberal stances, among them on immigration. So in 2019, in what K-file found, she said she would cut funding to ICE, writing, quote, "Our immigrant detention system is out of control, and I believe we must end the unfair incarceration of thousands of individuals, families, and children. I was one of the first senators after President Trump was elected to advocate for a decrease in funding to ICE." Well, now, of course, she's touting the Biden administration's executive order to crack down on the border. K-File's Andrew Kaczynski.
Okay, so that's on a form, okay? That should not surprise anyone. There are, you know, especially I've played for you guys the video of her grilling, um, you know, people associated with ICE saying like, "Hey, don't you see how people relate this to the KKK with the fear and the intimidation?" They're just like, "No, I don't see any parallels with that." She's like, "Well, what about the perception?" He's like, "No." I don't see any parallels with ICE and the KKK. So she has really radical policies. She's tweeted. She's been against border funding and other things like that. She's tweeted about that stuff. Her record is very clear on this. So unearthing this 2019 questionnaire to like, oh, she said some really radical things back then. This isn't news. This isn't news. It's funny they're presenting it like it's news, but we'll keep watching.
Joins me now. Andrew, that's pretty incredible on its own when you're talking about what you found here on ICE. What else did you find?
Yeah, and this was a questionnaire that she filled out for the ACLU. And this questionnaire is really an interesting snapshot in time of that 2019 Democratic primary. Kamala Harris was trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders. She was trying to get to the left of Elizabeth Warren. And you really see that in a lot of these answers. And I want to walk our viewers through a little bit of what she said. Let's just take immigration and look at what she said here. She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she supported
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this. Oh. And she said she also supported it for federal prisoners. Now, she also pledged to slash immigration detention by 50%, close all family and private facilities, and decrease funding for ICE, and then end ICE detainers.
So, so she actually said that. Yes, she actually said that. And I just checked. Yes, actually wrote it down in the actual survey. And I don't understand why people are surprised by that. Like, maybe they're not surprised, or maybe they're just reporting it like they're surprised. But the Biden administration has been so absolutely radical on gender identity stuff. They have been so radical on that. And there's been some reporting on it, like the New York Times reported how the administration tried to remove any sort of age suggestions on transition surgeries. And that got a bit of play because they actually asked the White House about it, and they said they don't support, like, I think, minors doing it after they were pushed, but they wanted to remove those recommendations. We covered that story at the time. And Rachel Levine is a trans woman, is a dude who believes he's a woman, and he's very radical on the position. So this should really be surprising. People can say that, oh, she's just saying stuff to get elected, or she was just trying to get the attention of progressives back then, and oh, she doesn't really believe in this stuff. Oh, she wouldn't govern this way. Open your eyes, just open them a little bit, and you'll see that this administration is already very radical. So what happens when the old man meat suit goes away? And you have Kamala Harris, who has voted for radical things, pushed radical things, advocated for radical things, tweets radical things, has, been in the Senate, espousing radical things. And then she suddenly gets all the limelight, plus all the media basically fawning over her, trying to protect her. They're not being good, I don't know, people who are trying to protect democracy, and democracy dies in darkness. They're all on the ball when Trump is elected, really looking to the policies and covering every little detail. But when it comes to Kamala Harris, they really want to cover for her. I'm not saying they don't cover stuff. Sometimes they may do what Rush Limbaugh called random acts of journalism, but most of the time they want to cover for this girl. And that's not going to change when she makes history, if she makes history, being the first woman of color president. And just like, a lot of times people wanted to pretend like criticism about Obama was about his race, they're going to make it seem like criticism about her is about her race and her sex. And, I'm not saying people don't say things that aren't racist or sexist or sometimes, but she's just an unqualified candidate who's not ready for prime time, obviously. But even if she were qualified, she's still too radical. She's still too radical. None of this should surprise anyone. And for folks believing that she won't govern in a radical way, we are already living in a radical world where they get mad because Republicans are like, don't put that child pornography in the books in the library. And they're like, how dare you attack the gays? It's insane. Their policies on transgender stuff is insane. Gender identity, ideology. Someone brought up Project 2025 to mean a particular chapter, and they're trying to diss it. And I hadn't read any of it before. I didn't want to. It's like 1,000 pages, 900 plus. I wasn't interested, but they mentioned a specific chapter. So I decided to read the particular chapter, and it had pretty normal things in there. Things like, sex discrimination should be based on the basis of sex discrimination and not your feelings about your gender identity. I'm like, that sounds reasonable to me. Sounds reasonable to me. But they think, that stuff like that's just really, really dangerous, I guess. No, I haven't read the whole entire thing, so I'm not gonna and I'm not going to, by the way. So I'm not gonna, defend it all. But most people criticizing haven't read the whole thing either. Anyway, let's keep watching.
With local law enforcement.
I mean, these are things that, you know, it would be hard to think that you would come up with taxpayer funding gender transitions for detained migrants, and yet this, as you say, written and verbally. You know, what else, you know, did you find?
Well, let's take a look at her answer here on drugs. She got asked about you know, the question from the ACLU was, since drug use is better addressed as a public health issue through treatment and other programming, will you support the decriminalization at the federal level of all drug possession for personal use? And Harris answers yes. Now, what would that mean? Well, I mean the federal all drug possession. That's not just marijuana, which she alluded to in her answer to this question, but it also would mean,
Yeah,
you know,
it's federal level of all drug possession for
fentanyl,
personal
crack,
use.
you know,
Yes.
cocaine, things like that. Yeah.
Have they responded to you on her changes on these issues?
So we did put this question to the Harris campaign about the entire ACLU questionnaire, and the Harris campaign didn't answer any questions from CNN. Instead, they just provided a statement from an unnamed Harris campaign advisor that
once
just
again
said the vice president's positions have been shaped by 3 years of effective governance as part of the Biden-Harris administration. Now, they declined to CNN to elaborate on what those positions were, and then they also provided this statement, which they attributed to a spokesperson saying, as president, she will take that same pragmatic approach, focusing on common sense solutions for the sake of progress. So where does she stand on this, all this questionnaire today? We don't know, and they won't say.
It's pretty incredible stuff. And thank you very much, Andrew K-File, for this reporting.
So them saying that the the Harris administration, you know, basically just look at what we've done in the past couple of years. But yeah, you've left the border wide open, and in the last minute you guys want to do something because you don't want to look too bad, you know, at the height of the election. Okay, so you're doing some stuff, but you basically left it a mess the past 3 years. So that's what we have to go off of. You can't just say, when I'm president, we're suddenly going to build the wall and fund the wall and do what we need to for ICE. No, you didn't want to do that stuff before you ran and when you were a senator and had voting power. And now you have, as president, you can sign your name to legislation. Is she going to veto the bills that she co-sponsored and helped to get there or try to push on the floor? She gonna veto that same stuff? I don't know. I don't think so. If her radical folks can push that kind of stuff through. And again, they're pretending like the Biden administration right now is some kind of moderate administration and we should just sigh of relief because she's not going to be crazy, because they haven't been crazy in the past 4 years. Yes, they are crazy. This is an administration that was appointing judges, or at least trying to, that was putting serial rapists, not just serial rapists, serial child rapists in women's prisons because they identified as a woman. So if that's what this administration, the Biden-Harris administration, wants to do and has done, and we're supposed to say, well, just look at the pragmatic solutions, we can see how crazy you've already been, and we're concerned about when you are totally unleashed from the old man meat sack. We are very concerned how much worse it will get, especially if you take the House and the Senate and you have full Kamala reign the whole entire time. This is a person who said many times, or at least a couple times, but I know on the debate stage that, you know, if she, I think she said some kind of statement, and then they asked about it at the debate stage, you know, that if Congress doesn't act in the first 100 days doing what she wants them to do as far as gun legislation, then she will act via executive order. And Joe Biden said, no, you can't do that. You got to be constitutional. And she just laughed at him and said, you say we can't, Joe. I say, yes, we can. And that's not a good look. We should be concerned. She just didn't become a new person. Now, I'm not saying becoming the vice president can't change you, and seeing how things really work on the world stage. I mean, there are things that Obama wanted to do, like really radical, as far as, you know, trying to get rid of our nukes and all kinds of different stuff when he was the president, wanted to pull out. different wars that we had, and then he ended up increasing wars, and he ended up droning people, and he deported a lot of people, when he was much softer on the border and stuff. So lots of things change. But I'm sorry, I was trying to find this article that I'd already mentioned today that I have read and went over with you guys, but Biden officials push to remove age limits for trans surgery, documents show. So we don't have to go over that article again, but this is a New York Times article. Biden officials push to remove age limits for trans surgery, documents show. So there's evidence of them actually doing these radical things. And then after this report came out, they came out with a statement claiming that they oppose surgery for minors, but their actions showed differently. So when they say, "Oh, we'll just look at our record," we know the record, Kamala Harris. We know the record, and it's not good. It's not comforting. So that she's the same person that she was in 2019. She's the same person. Joe Biden had a radical presidency. They hired a bunch of radical people, and she's one of the radicals. And she will have more radicals. It's not going to get better. If you think she's going to moderate more than Joe Biden, you are insane. You are insane. So people being surprised about this, the ACLU report questionnaire, Kamala Harris, she said these things. Yes, they're crazy. And she was crazy the whole time. And she's still crazy. She's still crazy. So please, I hope they ask about this in the debate. I don't know if Donald Trump will hammer this, but it's worth talking about. And she needs to explain why she's not that same person. If there was a change, but there's not. Because she didn't change within 40 days, 50 days. She hasn't changed. She's still that same person. She just wants to be president. So as Bernie Sanders said, I played the video yesterday. They said, "Oh, well, she's kind of running against some stuff that you're saying and that things that you support. Like, are you disappointed?" He's like, "No, I think she's saying what she needs to win. I think she's being pragmatic so she can win an election." Of course. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. And politicians do it, man. Politicians do it. A lot of people say stuff to get elected. And it's crazy because on the flip side, she's rejecting some of these, but they're not even saying named people from her campaign are saying stuff. It's always like anonymous people from the campaign claims that she changed her mind. So it's not even like really her that we hear saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm against all these things. I've had a big change of heart. I've grown and matured." There's none of that. There's none of that from Kamala Harris. So it'll be interesting to see if she's pressed on that tonight. Though I wouldn't hold my breath, but we'll see. But let me show you this clip. They were asked about this. And they didn't want to answer, her folks from the campaign. Not surprised in the least, but
I do want to ask you about this CNN report. It shows Harris voiced support for cutting funding for ICE and for using taxpayer money to fund transgender surgery for detained migrants in 2019. Does the vice president still support those positions, and do you expect her to address them tonight?
Listen, I think, these old questionnaires are a complete distraction from the task at hand right now. I think the vice president, and frankly, what the American people are actually asking about, right? What the American people are concerned about and what they're asking about is who's going to solve for border security.
But I do want to ask.
Okay, it's just a distraction. It's just a distraction. American people don't want to know. I'm an American person. I'm an American citizen. And I would like to know how she's going to answer the question. I would like you to answer. How hard would it have been to say she doesn't support those things anymore? How hard would that have been? If you're going out there representing her campaign, how hard would it have been to say she doesn't support things like transgender surgery on detainees? By the way, I think that's a really radical position that shows her mindset and how bad she is. But we still can't forget things like there's like maybe 300,000 of these kids that we don't know where they are. So that's a pretty big deal. I hope Donald Trump brings it up. I hope the moderators bring it up in some kind of question there. So I don't know what they'll say. I don't know what kind of questions that they will actually ask. But it wouldn't have been hard to say she doesn't support those things anymore. Oh, it's just a distraction. That's what Joe Biden did when he was running in 2020 and they tried to ask him about packing the court and other stuff. And he's like, oh, that's just a distraction. And they're like, no, voters want to know. This is what the number one thing they keep asking about. And Joe Biden just flat out told reporters, like, if I answer this question, it's going to basically shift the conversation into what Trump wants to talk about. And I don't want to do that. So he flat out said, I'm not going to answer your question because it's basically, it's what it might put me in a tough spot. and I want to focus a conversation on things that I want to talk about. That you're not actually supposed. Politicians do that all the time. Like they dodge questions and they answer questions the way they want to answer instead of just being like blatantly honest. If the answer will make them look bad, and they're supposed to redirect kind of quietly. They're not supposed to just blatantly say, I'm not answering the question because it make me look bad, bruh. And that's what my opponent wants. And it'll just be a distraction. And I'd rather, talk about the soul of the nation and how he's a very fine people, Nazi things. I'm paraphrasing, but I guess paraphrasing is not fair. He didn't bring that up in that conversation, but the point is he didn't want the conversation to turn negative on himself. So that's why they won't answer those questions, because they don't want the conversation to turn negative on themselves. Now, the American people deserve to have answers to these questions. And they do want to know about the border and other things that he mentioned, but this questionnaire had things about the border. Like if they're willing to pay for trans surgeries for detainees, doesn't that speak to how much benefits she wants to give to these people? And she's going to give them a lot of benefits. She's just going to keep incentivizing people to come into the country illegally. And then there's the things about her not liking ICE, wanting to define ICE, get rid of the detainee centers, not fund the border wall, all these different things that speak to her not solving the problem. So they're not going to solve the problem. And we have a snapshot into her thinking when she was running for president. Now, she's not the president, this administration. She's part of this administration, but she's the vice president. So, but when she was running for that top spot, these are the things that were at the top of her mind. So to just dismiss them seems rather silly. Seems rather silly to me. But again, I know why he doesn't want to answer. It's amazing that he won't, and he can, but he won't. It's amazing where they are. It's amazing where they are with this stuff. At the same time, pitching things like price controls and taxing unrealized capital gains, things that they believe will destroy the stock market, and they're just gung-ho about it, like proud of their severe economic disabilities. they're proud of that, but they're very shy about just flat out admitting that she still probably supports all this crazy stuff. The campaign doesn't make any sense to me. It makes no sense to me. Like, it made no sense to me picking Tim Walz over like Josh Shapiro, other than the fact that people try to pretend like folks on the right were making up this thing about him not being picked because he's Jewish, but that was actually commentary on the left about him being Jewish being a reason why, like a concern for folks if he was picked, because there's a coalition of like pro-Hamas, pro-Gaza folks, Palestine folks in the party who are trying to be uncommitted or are very upset with the Democrats. So, but Tim Walz had such a radical record. I mean, I'm not saying Josh Shapiro isn't, a lefty either, but Tim Walz, man, there's so many issues with him. And not just like the stolen valor stuff or him lying about the IVF stuff, but he lies about a lot of things, and it's really alarming. Just even dumb things that he lies about. But the way he governed his state during COVID, like I've mentioned this a few times now. When they bring up the fact that she believes women should be able to do with their own bodies and freedom and liberty or whatever, it should be very easy for Donald Trump to mention that Tim Walz, tried to, or not tried to, he arrested business owners, particularly a woman business owner, and had her in prison for violating his lockdown edicts because she was trying to, keep her business open, which did not survive his COVID lockdowns. So they don't care about women and their choices. They specifically only mean abortion. So he's just got a lot of baggage, but they just double down on the leftism, the crazy. Let me see. There was a report the other day that about someone who they let go, who they commuted the sentence. Tim Walz commuted the sentence of someone who killed, I think, an 11-year-old girl. And here we go. And within 3 months, they were busted of drugs and firearms.
I think Tim Walz has to answer for this. Because Mayan Burrell is a Bloods criminal street gang member. I charged the Bloods in a more recent case. But Mayan Burrell shot and killed an 11-year-old girl who was doing her homework on her kitchen table in Minneapolis. He was convicted, and he did almost 20 years in prison. And after he maintained his innocence, which he definitely wasn't, guess who commuted his sentence? Tim Walz commuted his sentence. And not long after being off of probation for 3 months, this criminal, Mayan Burrell, got picked up for having drugs and a gun in his car.
Oh, God.
And guess who bailed him out? Because he was set free. Guess who bailed him out? The Minnesota Freedom Fund, the same fund that Kamala Harris was soliciting funds for during the riots.
Wow.
So at this point, the Democrat Party, Tim Walz, and Kamala Harris have to answer for that.
So just to show you, there's just so many things wrong with Tim Walz, but they double down on the radical behavior. They just double down on it. And it's pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. Anyway, moving on. Do you guys recall when Elon Musk had that space with Donald Trump? And one thing that I mentioned that I thought was really interesting was that Elon Musk had recommended that there's some kind of group to look at the government and to scale it down, or to look at how efficiently it is run. Like, Elon Musk came into Twitter, saw a lot of jobs that were unnecessary. They fired a lot of people in the company and downsized, and the site obviously still runs. So, there's a lot of government jobs and people working in government who, they get a lot of bureaucracy there. It could probably be tampered down a lot. It probably could. And when they mentioned that idea, my first instinct was, oh man, they'll really try to kill him. They'll really try to do it. And I don't like to be like conspiratorial or whatever, but there's folks in government who've been there in a long time, who work for the system, who feel like no matter who is the person in charge, I'm going to outlast that president, and I'm going to outlast whatever joker you put over me in my department, like that you appoint. I'm going to outlast them. And folks around me are going to outlast them. We'll figure out a way to get them out before you fire me. So this is where they're going to this is where they've been, and this is how they're going to retire. And you're not getting rid of their job. There's just so many different cogs running. So if they start just picking out departments, or even, I don't know, entire branches, not branches, but um like Trump wants to get rid of the Department of Education. I don't know if he's actually going to do that. That's something that they've talked about. A lot of Republicans and stuff have talked about. But for really smart people like Elon and other business-minded people to go in and just see where the wasteful spending is, and all the time that's wasted, and to even if they don't get rid of people, even just creating new processes that work. Sometimes people are so stuck on not fixing that and just doing the things the way that they're used to, that they resist any sort of change that comes in. So I'm not saying that someone's actually going to do it, but that just like concerned me all of a sudden. But Elon Musk was asked about it today, and he said something about, he made a joke about him being assassinated.
If you could shrink the size of the government with Trump, what would be a good target? Just in terms of like ballpark.
I mean, are you trying to get me assassinated before this even happened?
No. Pick a low number.
I mean, there's that old phrase, go postal. I mean, it's like they might.
Yeah.
On me.
So we'll keep the post office.
I mean, I'm going to need a hell of a security details, guys.
Yes.
I mean, the sheer number of disgruntled workers, former government employees is, quite a scary number. I mean, I might not make it.
I was saying low digits every year for 4 years would be palatable. Yeah, and I like your idea of an off-ramp.
Yeah, so I thought that joke was interesting. It must be a high number, high enough to be concerned. And he's joking, but I don't think he's actually joking. And he knows how much the governments have come against him because of not just his wealth, but his influence and his values and dedication to free speech and other things. So stay safe out there, Elon. Please stay safe out there. For sure. Tonight is the debate. I don't know how it's gonna go. People were like, "Are you excited?" I'm like, I don't know. I saw some people on the left who were like, "I'm not watching it," and someone was saying that Democrats were saying that this is the actual election day today because it's that important. She'd have to really do awful for her to just start like falling in the polls, and if anything, I would only expect a little change to happen after the debate, and this will probably be the only debate. There's no other one scheduled. She was so funny about the rules. I can't see them trying successfully negotiating something else. If she crashes and burns, I don't see Trump trying to rectify that situation for her. And if she does pretty good, manages to do pretty good, I don't see her still wanting to do another one, because there's always the chance that she won't do good next time, and if he doesn't do good, then why would she want to redeem him? So it's not good that this will be the only debate, probably, but it will probably be the only debate. And there's a lot riding on this, and this could be the only other time we see her on TV addressing people, answering questions, because we went a long time without her doing that. So this could be one of only 2 times that we see her speak unscripted to the American people. And that's really disturbing. But that's less is more is what her campaign is going with. And if the American people let her get away with it, she's not as high in the numbers as I'm sure her team and Democrats want her to be. It's probably flipping them out. That there was a New York Times poll that came out the other day that had Trump a point ahead, and she needs to win the popular vote by several points to even really be a shoe-in for the Electoral College. And the crosstabs, which we didn't really go too much into, we didn't really go into crosstabs, but those weren't good for her either. So there's a lot riding on this, and she has to do a good job. Now, she did not crash out and burn when she was debating Mike Pence. I don't know if they had notes, though. It seemed they were writing stuff. I don't know if she brought some with her. But of course, Americans were distracted by the fly in Mike Pence's hair. But she definitely didn't win that debate. He won that debate. But Americans allowed themselves to be pretty darn distracted. In Mike Pence, I would have said was better at debating the issues than Donald Trump is. So I don't know. They said reports are that he's been, really looking at her policy, preparing for how they're going to attack him. I hope that he's taking all this very seriously. I don't know what all she'll plan to do. Their plans originally, were dashed after they wouldn't, keep the mics unmuted. She wanted to cross-examine him, allow him to overtalk her, and then do the I'm speaking thing. We'll probably still hear it at some point. And there's going to be something probably prepared, which there will be merch for. So just be prepared. But, it's his election to win. It's his election to win, and we'll see if he can pull it off. But he's never been spectacular. He's had great moments and stuff. He has naturally good instincts, but he can really defeat himself sometimes. The first 2020 debate between him and Biden, he just came in so hot, and he, turned a lot of people off. So, and by the time that third debate, there's 3 scheduled. The second one didn't end up happening because there was a scandal with the Presidential Election Commission. And so the third one happened, but by then a lot of people had voted, a lot of people made up their minds, and he was, poison to a lot of people. So, he did good in those last 2 debates with Hillary Clinton. The first one wasn't too hot. First 20 minutes, first maybe 15 minutes were fine, and then it just went downhill from there. So anyone saying that he's just going to demolish her, I can't validate that sort of confidence. There's a good chance that she'll crash and burn on her own. It's not so much that he demolished Biden. He had good moments. I have no idea what he just said, and he doesn't have any idea either. That was great. He had a few moments that were fantastic, but mostly Biden demolished himself. Father Time just came and won that battle. And Kamala Harris has other issues, but we'll see how that plays out. I will be at least live tweeting. I'm thinking about maybe doing a live afterwards. I'll have to let you know. So please watch my socials, because I'll let you guys know what I'm going to do. Otherwise, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I'm sure one way or another we'll talk about tomorrow on highlights, but I might do something tonight talking about it and reviewing it a bit on video. So I'll let you know if I decide to do that. My family's going to actually go see the Reagan movie instead. So I was going to go watch it, but they said it's going to be the same time as the debate. And I was like, no, I can't go see the movie. I have to watch the debate. So have to watch the debate. Something interesting that popped up, resurfaced. You guys, this clip of Kamala, well, it's not of Kamala Harris. It was a report on Willie Brown, and you can spot Kamala Harris in here a few times because she was his girl while he was married.
He's a rogue, all right, notorious for his flamboyant lifestyle. Flashy clothes, fancy parties, fine women.
Are you his daughter? No, I'm not.
And fast cars.
You should from now on address me as the mayor.
If ever a man and a municipality were made for each other, it is this man, this place. He's a rogue.
So some people say you see her a few times, but obviously she's right there, right next to him. Now, which is a little surprising because according to his, I think, autobiography, his wife at that point in time wanted him to get rid of Miss Kamala because I guess people were suspecting that he was going to put his wife away for her, and she didn't like those kinds of conversations. So it's funny when Democrats in fact checking sites try to defend Kamala Harris. So like, well, he was estranged from his wife. They were not so estranged if she could be like, put your side chick away. Like it's time for her to go. And this was her too when someone asked, "Are you his daughter?" And she said no. So for those of you who don't know, Kamala Harris got her start in politics in California from Willie Brown, who they call the godfather of like California politics and stuff. And he got her some roles on some boards where she didn't have to do much work and still didn't show up very often, but they paid her a lot of money to just, go and sit on different boards that she wasn't qualified to do that. And he helped her out get other sort of jobs as well. So it's funny that stuff that's written about her, like in her biography and stuff, she doesn't mention him, but he definitely played a big role. So it's interesting to me when people don't know those kinds of details. I don't expect this stuff to come up during the debate, by the way. I don't think Trump's going to want to bring that up and about her sexual escapades. But I guess he could always consider it fair game if she does the same to him. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect, but Trump was trying other different kind of ways to get at Kamala, talk about Kamala. And I think the thinking now with the campaign is it is better to just focus on the policy. There's enough bad policy. That's what the American people care about. And he can really demolish her every time she says that she's going to do something. Trump can just say, why didn't you do it then? Why haven't you done it? Why don't you do it tomorrow? Why don't you do it today? Why is this the first time the American people are really hearing from you? Why are you dodging them? Why are you not talking to them in an unscripted kind of manner? Why did you guys just now drop policy? There's policy on our website, by the way, which is all very kind of vague and silly stuff. So there's lots of ways that they can attack and go after Kamala Harris. And I wish I only had negative things to say about her today, guys. But I was pretty triggered about something today. So I got some mailers today. Now I have seen this mailer before when it was first circulating online. Someone in Georgia said that they got it, and I had to ask, is this really paid for by the Georgia Republican Party? And they showed me an update with the back of it. So I've shown you guys this before, and I had heard that someone, when I went to go see Am I Racist, someone told me that their sister got this mailer, and maybe they're just sending it to me because I'm a woman. I don't know if they're sending it to everybody, but they've sent it to me. And there's 4 different pieces of mail that I saw that, and all of them have was dealing with this topic. One of them was like also included stuff about Social Security and stuff too. But I think maybe 2 were addressed to me and 2 were addressed to my sister. They were all different, but all kind of the same. So I only have a picture of one of them to show you. I did post this on my Twitter. And let me zoom that out because I don't have it right next to me. I guess I can go run and get it and read it if you. Yeah, let me go get it. Just excuse me 1 second. Okay, thank you very much for your patience. So, yeah, I got quite a few of these things. I don't want you guys to see my address, but so the top says Kamala Harris, extreme on abortion, wants unrestricted access to abortion for any reason, including late-term abortion through the 9th month. By the way, that is true. That is true. Opposes any limitations on abortion at any number of weeks. That is also true. Voted against legislation that required medical providers to render care for babies born alive after botched abortions. That's true. Also disgusting, very gross. And people be very, I don't know, people, I've been on different lives and have mentioned that and brought that up, and Democrats have been surprised by that. But these are mainstream Democrat positions for no restrictions, not rendering care, required medical care. And she voted to force taxpayers to fund abortion for any reason. So these are not, really fringe positions. This is just how extreme the Democrat Party as a whole is on this issue. I'm not saying all Democrats. I'm not saying every Democrat politician, but in Congress in 2023, like one of the first bills was trying to require medical care for babies that survive abortions. And all Democrats except for 2 in the House voted against it. And I think 1 voted present and 1 voted for it, maybe. But the rest of them all said, no, we're not going to mandate that they get care. And the reasoning that people had for voting against it was so absurd. And one legislator one congresswoman from Michigan started quoting scripture from Jeremiah about, I knew you in your mother's womb. It doesn't say the government's womb, it says the mother's womb. And it's like, okay, so like this bill is talking about what happens after they survived your homicide attempt. They're not in your womb anymore. So what does the scripture have to do with anything? You're bastardizing it, but what does it have to do with anything? And I wrote about that in my book, of course, God is blatantly against abortion, which I encourage you guys to check out if you haven't checked it out. But the point of that particular scripture isn't that, oh, the fetus is in the mother's womb. It's the fact that God knows you while you're in the womb. It's about God's relation to that fetus, not necessarily the mother's relationship to that child. It's about God's relationship with that human being, that God knows them. And so that's something that mothers expect. If you're a believer and stuff, well, it doesn't, I guess it's true regardless of the fact that you're a believer or not, but we are called to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And you also have to remember that your child is someone who was also loved by God. So why are you treating them as if they have no value? So it was wild to me, but those are the actual Democrat positions. I don't appreciate, though, getting a mailer bragging about Donald Trump's common sense abortion policies. All these positions are evil to me. I'm sorry. So I knew this was out there. I know what he's been saying. For like 2 years or so, I've covered it. I've talked about it. I've complained about it. I've lamented about it. I've been heartbroken about it, enraged about it. It's nothing new. Okay. And this mailer isn't new. I've seen it before. And but now it's at my house with my address, with my name on it, paid for by the Michigan Republican Party, a place where I used to work. I used to work at the Michigan Republican Party. Do you know what I did? I made stuff like this. Yeah, a lot of times though, with the mailers, I only made a couple. They usually they get some kind of company. Now since this is pretty uniform, I would assume that they got some company to do it. Maybe I don't know if the RNC made it or something, but each state is paying for at least the distribution of it. But this is pretty uniform across the country, I suppose. So I've at least seen it in Georgia. Maybe they're just sending it to swing states. I don't know. But I saw these in Georgia first, and now it's at my door in my name. And I find it egregious and shameful and disgusting that they would send this to me thinking that this is an own, like, yeah, vote for Donald Trump because it's common sense abortion policies. This is something that's very shameful to me. I'm deeply ashamed that he has these positions. Deeply ashamed. It's like you're rubbing salt in my deeply fresh wounds and making it worse. And I don't. If I was now the person whoever works at the Michigan Republican Party doing graphics and stuff right now probably didn't make this. They probably didn't design this. But if I were there and they had asked me to make this, I would have. Oh gosh, I would have gave him heck. I would have wanted to quit over this. If they wanted to make me do it, I'd have been like, you better get somebody else to do it because this isn't what I believe in. This isn't what the Republican Party is supposed to believe in. And if it is, I don't want to be here. So they have a thing from NPR says Trump declines to back nationwide abortion ban, says it should be left to the states. Trump wants voters in each state to decide their own state abortion laws. Trump will protect access to birth control and IVF, fertility treatments. Trump opposes late-term abortion when the life of the mother is not in danger, and he opposes forced taxpayer funding of abortion, and Trump won't sign an abortion ban. Now, why not just... IVF is very controversial. Well, I don't know. It's actually seems more controversial to bring up the fact that IVF has ethical issues revolving around it. But why not just say Trump will protect access to fertility treatments? He doesn't have to purposely go in specifically about IVF. And I don't know if he's heard the complaints that people have about it. Because I do know there's some people in the Trump admin who were just like, why do people not like it? And then they had to be explaining, like, oh, that kind of makes sense. So I don't even know if he's aware of like the controversial issues with it. But to briefly go over it, life starts at conceptions. Those embryos are human and alive, and many of them, it has a very low success rate. And there's just a lot more children who are created and killed, discarded, donated to science, and definitely frozen. And this will lead to, if we have taxpayer funded IVF and stuff, it'll just lead to more children dying than Planned Parenthood being open. This idea that abortion should be up to the states, to me, that gives the vibe of like slavery should be left up to the states, like human rights violations should not be permitted in one state versus the other. 14th Amendment, equal protection. It's just a mess to me. I've gone further and talked about these issues, so I'm not diving deep into all the objections today. I'm glad he opposes forced taxpayer funding on abortion, but I don't want my taxpayer dollars to fund IVF either. But this idea, but saying it should be left up to the states and what the states decide should be honored, that also means that you honor the states that choose late-term abortion in all 9 months. So if that's what California, New York, or Minnesota or Michigan or wherever decides that they want abortion up until 9 months, then what are you going to do about it? You say that you oppose it, but you'll do nothing to stop it. So so that's an issue there. And I don't like the focus on late-term abortion, because to me that tells me, and based on other conversations that he's had, that you don't really respect and want to protect life early. And I'm the same human being that I was at 24 weeks than I was when I was 6 weeks. So I don't like it. And Trump saying he won't sign a federal abortion ban. First of all, if it's probably not going to happen. They're probably not going to get those votes. It's likely Kamala Harris won't get votes to be able to codify Roe v. Wade either. It's just likely that no one's going to get enough votes to really do anything about this matter. But if by some miracle you could get enough Republicans, and let's say even some Democrats want to cross over, maybe they get saved or something, I don't know, hear from the Lord, and they decide to put some kind of restriction, some kind of ban on his desk. Maybe it's not a full outright ban. Maybe it's I don't know, fetal pain bill, something that Lindsey Graham has been pushing or something, and it makes it on his desk. You're telling me he would veto that? You're telling me he would veto that? So I've heard I've heard him say all these things. I've covered him saying these things. I've already been upset about it. I've continued to be upset about it. I've mentioned it. I've talked about it. But this mailer ended up at my door and with my name on it, trying to convince me to be like, oh, it's a good thing. Here, support him. And this is the thing that I hate the most. So there's more of these. This one's addressed to my sister, but don't want you guys to see the address, so I'm not gonna show the other side. It's basically the same stuff, just made a little differently. There's another one that talks about Medicare and Social Security stuff as well. So this is another one about basically same stuff, just differently. But yeah, there's like 4 or 5 of them here. There's another one that is about actual economy and stuff. So at least there's one about the issues that actually matter. So in a different polling where it says like the number one issue for voters is abortion, and it's always kind of high, but people always assume that that means that it's pro-abortion. If someone asked me like what's a really important issue on the election, I would say abortion, but I wouldn't be like pro-abortion. I would say it's an important issue, but I would be of the mindset that I really don't want to vote for a pro-abortion candidate. So I wonder how many like of these surveys that we see distinguish between the people wanting it banned or not wanting it banned or whatever. But yeah, I'm disappointed in the Michigan Republican Party, because I'm like, I understand the campaign is doing what they're doing, but why pay for this? Why? Why push this out? And why send it to me? Where is your data? Because it should be pretty evident that I don't like this issue. I mean, any kind of pro-choice stuff at all. So that it was not wise to send it to my house. It was not wise to send it to me, because all it did was set me off. I have a thread. I was gonna make a call, but I didn't have enough time when I got home and I saw it. I was gonna call. I was gonna call, but I was gonna call Georgia too, their party, but I guess I'll just do it to mine. And I know where they are. Maybe I'll just drive to Lansing. I don't know. I don't know if they'll let me in. I don't know if they'll let me in, but it just sucks. It just sucks. Get some better data, man. Last thing that I want to mention that's pretty interesting is, you guys know the actress Shailene Woodley. I think it's Woodley. She was in the not the Hunger Games, but the Divergent series. She's quite the lefty from my understanding, but Libs of TikTok noted that she was doing an interview. Some people were really mad at her because after Trump was there was an assassination attempt on Trump's life. She posted something from Melania, and people were mad at her for posting something that Melania said about her husband. And she only posted the first page about it because, Melania was reminding people, this is a real human being. Like, he's my husband. You have all your feelings, but he's still a human being. And so she agreed with that. And she could not understand so many people that she knew that were celebrating death and were upset that the shooter missed. And so she said she didn't post the second one, so that's her, the actress. And this is Melania, a image of Melania's page that she had posted. And so she did an interview with Bustle and said, "Do you feel like you were misunderstood when you shared Melania Trump's letter about the assassination attempt?" She said, "Oh my gosh, literally, I read it and was like, this is so beautiful. I was in circles of people that I deeply respect, friends, colleagues, progressive, very intelligent thinkers, shakers and movers. And many of them were saying, he missed, bleeping assassin missed. Maybe it was a setup. Maybe it was a conspiracy." I was going, have we forgotten that 2 human lives were taken? 2 people died. That is sad. That is devastating. I could not understand how people were speaking about something with such passion for death. I only posted the first page of it because the second page was more political. The first page was very much like, look, underneath a political mask is a man, a grandpa who comes home to his children, his grandchildren, and plays music. The man underneath that mask is my husband. So good on her for having some humanity, and shame on those people around her that said such horrific things. But I know that they were out there. They were on TikTok, they're on Twitter, they were all over. There were people who were brave enough to say those things on camera. And it was just insane to me. We know Destiny was totally deranged, making fun of the people who were killed at that rally. So I'm glad that she was horrified. So while we remember that there's crazy left-wing people out there who were celebrating death and thirsty for blood, and think about the kind of damage. Oh my gosh, the psychology of the country if that had been successful. And these people just wanted it so bad and were sad that it didn't happen and didn't care or were even glad that innocent people lost their lives. So while those crazy people out there, let's remember that there are people like Shaylee who, you may not agree with on politics, but still has some humanity and is looking around and questioning where have we gone wrong? And shame on all those people who came out against her and attacked her for sharing some humanity. This was a big deal. This was a really big deal when that happened. It seems like people are trying to memory hole that very quickly. That was not too long ago, by the way. That was not too long ago when someone tried to kill Donald Trump. It wasn't too long ago. And people still have such crazy, insane, sickening rhetoric. And Joe Biden and other folks, when they're asked about rhetoric, they're like, Trump said this, Trump said that. And like, you're not going to take any responsibility for saying that he supported neo-Nazis and all that. Like all the lies that you've pushed that have made people deranged over the years. You're not going to take any accountability for that. And you're still going to spew the rhetoric that makes people insane. The kinds of people who she knows who are like, oh, that darn assassin missed, they have been programmed to hate this man. I'm not saying there's not legitimate reasons to not like him, but most of the reasons why lefties hate him don't even exist. They don't even exist. They don't even exist. So good on her. Good on her. So kudos to her. She did she's been in quite a few movies, but I saw I guess I saw all three Divergent films. She's also in a movie about a drift, I think it was what it was called, about she was in a boat. It's based off a true story. She was sailing with her lover, this boat, and there was a big storm, and then he was injured, and so she had to sail it herself while he was really messed up. And that's not quite how the real story goes, but you can go watch the movie and then go look up what actually happened. But it was a pretty good movie. But she is a talented actress, despite the fact that I'm not too fond of her politics. But again, good on her. I appreciate her. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go back to news.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost us streaming, run, and all that good stuff so you guys can support. I do very much appreciate it. Again, this Thursday, Am I Racist? I will be seeing it in a theater in Michigan. So on the southeast side. So if you want to join me, you guys can get a ticket at it's just easy if you go on blacktnews.com, and pretty much at the top of the homepage you can see where you can get a ticket. So go ahead and get that, and it's $20, and that's popcorn, and that's the after party, and that's also going to have a producer from the movie there who's actually in the movie. And also there will be, I think I already said food, but there's gonna be food there too. So it'll be a good time if you can make it. So go ahead and check that out. And please check out my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That is available on Amazon. And that covers rights, science, theology, a lot of politics and stuff. Like I mentioned stuff about Kamala, what she said and done. I've mentioned things about that bill that I talked about with the Democrats that didn't want to protect life. The comments that Michigan congresswoman made, I talk about those things in the book and more things as well. So the intro talks a lot about politics because it lays up the evolution of Democrats getting to this radical position of not wanting any sort of restrictions on abortion. And that's because they're taking their ethic to its logical conclusion. If it's my body, my choice, which of course there's a body inside of their body, but if the bodily autonomy of that woman being able to make the decision is the most important thing, logically they have to get to that point where if the woman wants to abort a healthy, viable child, that is what she is allowed to do, if that's what your ethic is. And the pro-life ethic is, if it's a life, then we need to protect it. And scientifically, we know that life starts at conception. Like there's some people who try to say, oh, the church hasn't been pro-life, and that's a current sort of delusion or whatever, which isn't true. There's plenty of church history, which I do mention in the book, but particularly I have a second edition that goes more into that now. So please go pick up the new copy of it that mentions a lot of church history where they clearly are against abortion. There were early debates about when life or ensoulment begins, but ensoulment, when there's the quickening, when the woman feels the baby move, but we know that's not actually when there's movement or when the baby is alive and stuff. So a day one zygote has reacts to stimuli and other stuff like that. They have all the characteristics of life. So we know more than they do now. So we know that life does, like your unique existence begins at conception. And so when it is a life, we need to be protected at that particular point. So that's the logical conclusion to our ethic. And it's not radical to say that it's wrong to kill human beings. That's not radical. It's not. Like some people are like, well, there's extreme people on both sides. Like it's not extreme to say that we shouldn't kill people who don't deserve it, who are not harming you. If both can live, both should live. That's not a radical position. If both can live, both should live. That is not a radical position, and don't let anyone tell you that it is. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We will have plenty to talk about tomorrow, I'm sure. And I have no idea which way it's gonna go. Well, we'll just have to see. But make sure that you guys are paying attention to the socials, because I might go even live after the debate. We'll see. But at the very least, I'll be tweeting about it. God bless you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.